Because for the last 20 years I've been teaching people bahasa Indonesia untuk menutur asing. If you want to combine bahasa dan budaya, I think the first place you look is in the names of the people around you and the culture you're talking about. It's absolutely clear that Balinese names are full of cultural Ketut, Nyoman, all of these names, Mate, Game, Chakoda, and all of these sorts of names. The very names of the people that you are talking to are rich in culture. That's right, isn't it? It's also true in Javanese, where you have names to do with order of birth, like here in Bali. Eko, Dwi, Tri, Chatur, Poncho, Abdudoso. So you've got words derived from Sanskrit. You've got the day of the month. If someone's born on Friday, they might be Jumati. Or if they're born on the Javanese days, Wage Wage Min, Pon Poniman. Well, you know the Javanese names, the five names of the week or month. If you're born in July, you might have the name Giulini or Giulianto. If you're born in April, Aprilianto. If you're born in February, Febrianti. If you look at the names, you can find in the names values and interests. Special events. There was a lady in Jogja called Centricia, because she was born in a taxi centris. There was a lady called Karyati, because she was born in a dokar. There was a man called Bagaskar, because bapaknya punya tugas di Canberra. So that becomes Bagaskar. Aspects of nature, Purnama, Bulan, wayang figures, Bimo, Arjuna. And then if we look at so many Arabic names in Indonesian, if you look at all the Arabic names ending with their endings in, tun, unya, not so many in Bali, okay? And ones with meanings like first, Abdur, Abdul, different names of the angels, names of the prophet, names of the wife, the associates, the friends of the prophet, to do with the name, the day of the month. People brought with the name Ramadan, etc. Special meanings. If you start with the names of people in the class and the culture that you're teaching, the English, you can discern quite a lot from there. Think about how the Chinese, many Chinese in Indonesia have Indonesianized names that hide the Chinese name inside them. So Chinese who used to be called Lim are now called Halim and Salim, because the Lim is still inside the name. People who are called Wi are now called Wijaya. People who are called Wong are called Wongso. People who are called Ong, Ongokusumo, and so on. Chinese names where the original Chinese family name, Biantoro, is hidden inside the Indonesianized name. If you think of Batak names, there are all these marga. Simatupang, Siregar, Purba, Nababa. What does Simatupang mean, Pak? Siang malam tunggu panggilan. Aduh, jahat sekali. Sirai, sikap ramah ilmu tinggi. Siregar, Sinaga, sindikat narkoba gelap. Siang Jakarta. The one I like best, you see how these names in Indonesian are often used. Gatot, gagal total, or gagal total. But the Batak names are the best. Simatupang. What is Situmora? Situ monyet atau orang? Be careful when you say that around Bataks. You can find culture in the names. In Indonesia, I find that cities have slogans, and that has a lot to do with the what's the slogan for What's the slogan for Singaraja? Singaraja sakit. Ralat saja. You can find lots of things about the values. I want my students to be looking out with their eyes at realia. Sragen asli. What does asli stand for? Aman. Not sejuk, sorry, sehat. Rapi and ini indah, bukan ini. Now we berjuang. What's the verb? Bersih. Maju. Wow. Anggun. See, normally these don't describe the cities. They're actually, they tell what the cities would like to be like. With Medan, it should be, Medan is the singkatan of masuklah engkau dalam api neraka. What's Bestari stand for? Bersih? What? That was tea. Tertib. Amis. Aman. Rapi. Do you see these same terms are coming up, same ideals are coming up again and again about what Indonesians want of their hope for their cities. Now what happens in Indonesia, often the smallest the city, the longer the name. If the name in the area is very backward, terbelakang, the slogan is very long. Like Gunung Kidul Handayani. What does Handayani stand for? What does H stand for? Harmonis. Ada orang Jawa. Hijau. What's the A? Aman. N. Next normatif. D. No, dinamis. A. Amal. Y. What? Yakin. A. Asal asih asuh. N. Haven't you been to Java? Belum ke Jawa ya? Nilai tambah. And I is indah. And of course, Denpasar berseri, bersih, sehat, rindang, indah. Oh ya. Ubud bersemi, bersih, sehat, memikat. Saya kira memorok, but that's okay. Memeras, okay. That's just. So what I'm saying here is that in daily life, in realia, you can find the culture. I also like bringing a lot of culture in through. An interesting thing, in English, buses, cats have names, but buses don't. In Indonesia, buses have names, but cats don't. Is that right? Cats are either called manis or cing, but buses all have names in Indonesia. Look at this one, Bintang. If I show that, my students are very interested. They want to know, why does a bus called Star? Jihad and Hamdulillah. And they wanted me to catch it. They wanted Bule to catch an angkot called Jihad. Sorry. Hamdulillah, not much better. Gemilang. Borobudur. Beringin Sakti with a kangaroo, 2 kangaroos, thank you very much. Indonesia kan marah kalau Malaysia dikatakan mencuri budaya, tapi seperti ini Indonesia nggak malu-malu mencuri budaya negara saya. Thank you very much. Beringin Sakti karena ada 3 kangaroo itu memang beringin luar biasa. Anak itu beringin. Anak ayah bunda studi gagal, karir sukses. That's the opposite of me. I was studi sukses, career gagal. I love using signs of the times, bringing signs from out. Orang tua dilarang masuk. See, that's got a good meaning. Anda lelah ngantuk istirahat. Cintamu tak seperti bensinku. Isn't that clever? Obral sepatu. My students love this. When you bring in realia to the classroom, not texts, realia, the mood lifts. There's more enthusiasm. Soto babat Bu Mulyono, alangkah baik hatinya Bu Mulyono, babatnya diserahkan menjadi soto. Noda Ramadan pemutihnya. Awas kejahatan, gendam, hipnotis ada di sekitar Anda. This is so full of specific cultural meanings. When I teach this, I'm teaching culture a lot at the same time. I like teaching it for using informal Indonesian. Nakutin nyamuk, nak bikin kulit kering dan panas. Beneran murahnya. Kuliah singkat, skill padat, kerja cepat, biaya hemat. Sounds like Undiksha saya kira. Oh ya, kuliah padat, biaya banyak. What's happening? Indonesians are very clever at using rhyming. Kuliah singkat, skill padat, kerja cepat, biaya. See? It's used all the time. Orang bijak bayar pajak. Tertib pajak, orang bijak. Pajak Anda masa depan bangsa. Pajakku patuh, ibadahku teguh. Isn't this clever? And this is used by governments to try and get ngebut benjut. Kurangi kecepatan, rawan kecelakaan. Anda sopan, kami segan. Anda berugal-ugalan, siap terima pukulan. These are signs I just get them from the street, riding around. And then when I use them in my teaching, narkoba, jalan sesat untuk nikmat sesaat. Isn't that clever? Creative Indonesian. Muda narkoba, tua sengsara, mati masuk neraka. Also rhyming, selamatkan bangsa, musnahkan narkoba. I like using trucks. Trucks are very creative. Kakak ipar lagi sendiri ditinggal istri ke Arab Saudi. Adik rela jadi pengganti, jadi pemuas. Where's that truck end? Where's end? Singaraja, Malang. Sayangi aku seutuhnya, bukan sebutuhnya. Isn't that clever? Indonesian is so creative. So when I use these in my class, I don't use textbooks. I have a textbook in the background. But this is the sort of thing I use for teaching grammar, formal, informal, and also culture. And I hope that you'll be able to do that also in your teaching of English. I want to conclude now, is that okay? Oh, let me mention one of the things that's going to happen in the future, and that's the UniBridge project. And that's a project using technology where Australian university students talk to Indonesian university students through a Skype. It's not Skype exactly, but a different... Do you use that here? Yeah, I think it's Ibu Ari. Ibu Ari Swastini is the link. But people from other universities, if you want to teach together, if you want to teach English together with Australian students, sign up to the UniBridge program. It's not my program, I don't know that, I'm just doing an advert. But I know it has friends here in Singaraja, especially with Ibu Ari Swastini. This is the UniBridge project where your students can be talking maybe 1 hour a week and doing their exercises together. That's near my house. Come and visit me in Sydney. So UniBridge is the University Bridge project, and if you want to take part in this project, your university, contact this guy Chris Hall, who's a friend of Ibu Ari, and you can sign up for your students. So this is the thing I'd say, make use of the technology that you've got. Make use of the technology you have in the classroom. Make use of the technology students have. That's what Professor Jay was saying as well. But if students in class are always using their mobile phones, set an exercise that uses mobile phones. Use the real lives of students and use the technologies that are available to them. Here's my conclusions. May I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, from what I've said in the talk? Be ready for change in methodology in your career. If English teaching has changed 5 times in my career, it'll probably change 5 times in yours. Be ready for change and don't resist. Take the best from each method to use in your classroom. Grammar and translation are good in moderation. A little is good, a lot is too much. Patterns are very important, whether they're used in audiolingual or incorporated into communicative. Don't forget easy, useful communicative tasks that I showed you, like these grids and these quizzes. Don't use texts, use tasks. The tasks can reflect the text, but the task is more important than the text. Always relate grammar to function. That's what functional notionalists taught to us. Use a lot of realia in class, whether it's pictures of buses or things that you can bring in, maybe downloaded from the internet. Use the technology that students have for tasks in class and outside. Integrate culture with language teaching. Find the culture in the language. And finally, keep up the enthusiasm. The best method, the best asset an English language teacher has is their enthusiasm. Look at Professor J. Enthusiasm is more important than method. But a lot of enthusiasm combined with a good method, that's a winner. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's a very good presentation just now from Professor Reed. And I don't need to conclude, as it has been briefly and clearly concluded by Professor Reed. So now we invite questions, comments, and feedback, please. All right. Someone help.
Thank you very much, Ari. My name is Rai. I'm from Polytechnic Negeri Bali. I have been doing empirical study. I was eager about how our graduates competent at a language. What we did was we went to stakeholders, hotels managers who are foreigners, asking whether they are satisfied with what our graduates' English level and completely is, and then they said no. So one of the things they insert was, why don't you insert cultural aspect, sociological aspect to the language? So when you learn English, you have to be aware of the language, the target language culture. And then from there I was wondering to find out the new model of teaching for inserting maximally culture in the teaching of the English. And my question was, when you were teaching vocab or it was explicit teaching, culture teaching, I think, this now. But then my question was, if, for example, we are teaching with notional and functional method, where we would like introduce function of the language, like let's say there are some speech acts in the English, complaining, requesting, for example. How can we relate? How can we insert culture to the language teaching, particularly teaching the speech act. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think the culture is very much related to the functions. Just as you said, because you can complain in a rude way and complain in a polite way, and you can reply in a rude way and you can reply in a polite way. So I think the model materials that you use, whether it's a written dialogue or preferably video, online, YouTube dialogue, you can look, what are the markers of politeness? Compare a rude and a polite conversation and see in which ways rudeness is indicated, and see for the service culture for people like Australia is a very tourist-dependent country, and students often have to learn to be polite to Japanese tourists, for example, whose form of politeness is different. German politeness is different from English politeness. Japanese politeness, what they expect from listening to an Australian. So we could model that and then get people to look, identify what are the polite markers that are needed, the culturally correct polite markers. For example, German speech is very direct, but English is more indirect. Germans tend to say, I want something, but English say, may I have? Indirect, different tense, different structure. If it's no problem, may I? So you can identify, that I think is cultural, because of functions and notions and comparison. The best comparison is Javanese. Balinese may be the same. In Javanese there are 3 levels. Noko, Kromo, Kromo, Kromoming, Ingil, Kromomadio. And the students must learn which level to use effectively with whom. I think you can do the same with English. Identifying rudeness and politeness as cultural phenomenon, working out which functions you're going to focus on, apologizing, reassuring, and using models, whether written or audio or video, that can be studied, and then practicing based on what the students identify. Is that okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Is that okay, Pak Rai? Yeah. Okay, we are going to invite another comment or question or feedback, please. Yes, Bapak.